I have two different Toros, one in Star Plastic, one in Champion Plastic. Between the two of them, I've thrown them maybe about a dozen times in an open field, and other than this one being about 4 grams lighter, there's really no difference between them. So, does plastic type actually matter? Let's talk about it. To answer the question in the intro, the short answer is yes, plastic type does in fact matter. And I've broken it down into 3 main factors, and these are really more like guidelines than absolutes. There's plenty of exceptions. The first is disc flexibility, that is how stiff or flexible the plastic it's made from is. The second is the cooling process in the factory, and the third is actually the plastic type itself and how durable it is. So let's talk about the first one, flexibility. Every disc manufacturer has their own plastic blends that they use for their different types of plastic. Some are stiffer, some are more flexible, and they also have different types of durability. From my personal experience, the more flexible a disc is, the less stable it tends to be, and if you throw it on a forehand, the less torque resistant it is. And just like with most facets of life, there are exceptions. If you're familiar with fluid plastic from Dynamic and Latitude, then you know it's a very flexible, almost rubber-like plastic blend, and yet it's still very stable. Or if you're familiar with Vibram or Elevation disc, which are completely made out of rubber and you can bend them in half and they just pop right back into shape, you'll know that those tend to stay very true to their flight numbers. The second factor is the cooling process, which comes directly from the factory. Now, as a disc is left in its mold for longer, it retains its truer shape, but if it's actually pulled out sooner to let cool off, then it tends to want to curl back and dome more. This is why you always hear about people talking about special runs. Sometimes they're flatter, sometimes they're domier, and people like a particular style and look for a particular run. Our third and final factor is the disc plastic, like what plastic it's actually made from and how durable it is. So disc plastics can basically be broken down into one of 2 categories, and that's premium and base. Base plastic discs are really great for putters and starter sets. They tend to be gummier, grippier, what have you, but they're not the most durable disc. After just a few tree hits, they tend to start losing their shape pretty quickly. Whereas the premium disc, they hold their shape for longer. They are more expensive, but they are also more durable. As you throw your disc, they hit trees, they hit objects, they hit the ground, and little bits of plastic are worn away, the wing is deformed, and it starts to lose its shape. Base plastics, because they are softer and less durable, this process happens much more dramatically and quicker. Whereas the premium plastics, because they are more durable, this process happens much slower over time. That's not to say that base plastics in themselves are bad. They're great for putting putters, they're great for throwing putters, or even mids. If you're looking for a disc that you want to beat in because you like the feel of it, but you want it to be a little less stable, try throwing it in a base plastic so that way it gets to that sweet spot quicker. Now, there are more factors that affect how a disc will fly besides just the plastic it's made from, but there's so many of them. I felt like these 3 were the main ones that you really needed to consider and take note of. And if you found today's video helpful, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content.